Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you are well. You amazing, amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. It is Saturday. It's still Saturday, and this is video 2 of 2. And I got sent a link to the video where it had Steve Goncalves talking about the selfie. We covered the selfie earlier, and I showed how easy it is to make, depending on how or what side of the argument you are with respect to the BK Bryan Kohberger situation. You can almost make any single piece of this case appear however you want it to. You know, we can argue either side, both sides. Do you know what I mean? So you as a viewer have got to use your due diligence to try and understand that can be easily manipulated, that things can be easily manipulated. And it's like that with respect of the prosecution and the defense. They will take each element of this and try and spin it in a way that makes it seem more favorable to what they are trying to suggest is the case and isn't the case. Does that make sense? But I wanted to go through and just show you this, what Steve Goncalves talks about with respect of the selfie, because this is a clear example of somebody who is going through a lot of pain. He's suffering. He's obviously lost his child in this atrocity, and I'm kind of... Let's look at it together. Obviously, I'm going to have to stop it periodically as we make our way through so we can actually play it, because if you don't, then you'll get struck down with furious anger and all that jazz. But let's just go through this. So this is Steve Goncalves, father of Kaylee Goncalves, and talking to NBC News.
Goncalves. Steve, thank you so much for joining Top Story. And I also want to join us and that we have to speak like this. I know you were doing this to speak for your daughter, but I am so sorry this is a situation you find yourself in at all. I want to start with just asking you about...
And again, what I will say is there's a lot of things about Steve Goncalves I do not agree with. The way that he's handled... how can I say, certain elements of the case and information where he has put out or seemingly put out information that isn't accurate, and it's formed a certain way of looking at the case. And I think it's important that people concentrate on the facts. Like, there's a bit in this interview where he literally talks about that there's many things that you should think about. Like, you shouldn't be thinking about who's in the courtroom, for instance. You should be thinking about the facts of the case, the evidence of the case, when him himself has been a sort of somebody who has spoken about things that seemingly aren't accurate. But again, I can't stress enough that, you know, I feel for him in a sense that he's lost a child, but that is sadly where my thoughts start and finish.
Selfie that everyone has now seen. What went through your head? What did it feel like when you saw that selfie of Bryan Kohberger allegedly taken hours after your daughter and her housemates were murdered?
It was a trophy. He made himself a trophy. He felt like at that point he had just returned from the crime scene. There was no one there. And he believed, very confident, that's what the thumbs up. He's going to look back at that, remember what he got away with. And, you know.
So, as you hear in that, he's saying that this is a trophy photograph, that he's come home, sort of a job well done sort of thing. And I did say, before I'd even seen this, remember I did this video this morning where I talk about how a guilter would look at the photograph and how a pro-burger, if you like, would look at that photograph. And straight away, Steve Goncalves falls into that trap, because you're looking at it through the eyes of someone who has convicted this guy before he's been seen in court. And again, this is for interpretation of everything you've seen up to this moment and how it's made you feel about the person set before you. Now, some people say, well, maybe Steve Goncalves knows more than what we do. Well, Steve Goncalves shouldn't know more than what we do unless there's a leak inside the system. And then again, we're back to the same old question of, do you want a system to work properly, or do you just want a system to give you the result that you want? But what he turns around and says here, and I want people to pay close attention, is that this is a trophy. He feels that he's got away with it. And, you know, and I think if you look back to the mechanics of that crime, do you think that Bryan Kohberger would have come back and done this selfie, bearing in mind it doesn't look like the crime went the way it should have done? because Bryan Kohberger wouldn't have known who was in this house. He would have been caught unawares. So he's gone into this house. What they're trying to say is to perhaps go after a single target, say. And that target, what are you going to say, is Maddie. He was going after Maddie, perhaps. But he goes into a house and he's caught unawares because there's multiple people in there. And all of a sudden, this turns into an absolute clusterfuck where you've got multiple people on multiple floors. And not only that, but there's a witness in the house. He comes away from the place, and it's going to be argued, well, did he not see them? Well, he's staring straight at them. So was he looking and didn't see Dylan Mortensen? Did he not see, despite the fact that she clearly looked straight in their eyes? And not only that, but he left the knife sheath there, which by this time, you would know that. He would know that he'd left that there. So he's left a witness, he's left the knife sheath there, he's drove his own car there, he's driven it round the estate apparently, which we're going to look at the document that stipulates different places where the white Hyundai Elantra was seen, and there's about 6 different places around the crime scene. I do have questions because of some of the time frames are identical, and also the times that it takes to get from one place to another, they seem to be very, very narrow. And I think it looks like he goes back there and back. I don't know, but again, I'm not a legal person, but what I'm saying is he's driving his own car around this estate, getting multiple hits on multiple cameras. And he takes his phone. So you've got to consider, is Bryan Kohberger literally the most stupid fucking person that has ever committed a crime, who should know better? And when you take into consideration ASD, for instance, I spoke to Twiz yesterday in the comments. Not yesterday, literally today. And it was like, with ASD, he would be fucking screwing. He would be fucking screwing. If he has done this crime and he has left the knife sheath there and he's come away from there, I don't think that he would be taking a picture and doing a thumbs up. I can't see it. I don't know. But I'm trying to remain sort of balanced in, would the person who'd gone into this house and this crime turned into what it turned into with multiple people, and you've technically been in your own car and you've left something at the scene of the crime, would you be as confident? I don't know, or unless he just didn't realise that he'd left the sheath there, because the sheath ultimately was the thing that hung him. Unless his family turned him in, which I did cover this the other day, and I believe that Bryan Kohberger was likely turned over by his family. That is speculation, complete speculation, but I believe that Bryan Kohberger's family turned him in. We look at different elements of the Amazon click activity and what they're claiming around having a receipt and witnesses, shared accounts. I believe his family turned him in. I believe they did. But let's just carry on.
It's a challenge to Idaho to let everybody know that he thought he could kill people in our state, get away with it. He was far smarter than everyone else around him, and he studied it. He's trying to be a PhD in it. So,
and again with this, he studied it. He's smarter than everybody else, and he thought he was going to get away with it. But that doesn't go hand in hand with his actions. It doesn't go hand in hand with his actions at all. Like Steve Goncalves' will later on in this, he talks about his, the alibi, for instance. And Steve Goncalves turns around. We'll get to that in a second. But just with respect to smart, but he didn't do. If you're saying it's Bryan Kohberger who did this crime and he thought he was smarter than everybody, he literally did nothing that was smart. Nothing. No part of this was smart. So what is an indication, or what is indicative of a smart person doing this crime? What we're saying, that he purchased the weapon on Amazon of all places. He then goes back on Amazon to buy a replacement. He drives his own car, drives it round the fucking estate. He leaves something there and a witness, and then he takes a selfie afterwards. I can't. Again, you're caught in this situation where you try and think of Bryan Kohberger being this smart person, and Steve Goncalves saying Bryan Kohberger is smart. He thought he was. But he's clearly not. If he was the person who did this, then Bryan Kohberger is quite possibly the most stupid person who's ever committed a crime of this magnitude. And I'm not even joking.
I think it was a challenge to Idaho, and I think Idaho will definitely step up, and he's going to regret that photo.
Steve, I want to also ask you about one of the requests the defense is making to the judge, asking that they do not allow spectators to wear T-shirts with pictures of the victims on them or anything like words in the memory of. How does that make you feel?
It's petty. I don't worry about it, though.
This is literally where he just talks about they should be concentrating more on the evidence than who's in the courtroom. We'll see if we can skip.
You probably should focus more on the case and the evidence rather than who's going to be in there witnessing it.
Yeah.
The defense has also claimed that they're going to present alternate perpetrators. Do you believe there is anyone else involved in the murder of your daughter and her housemates?
No, not at all. There's surveillance all around there. You're going to clearly see who was coming into the place and exactly when they were leaving and what that vehicle looked like when it took that corner.
See, I don't get this because Steve Goncalves, again, what he's alluding to there is that they are going to see who goes in and they're going to see who comes out. And that, I find that hard to believe. Now, if they've literally got footage, if they've got imagery of Bryan Kohberger, and that is undisputable, that is literally Bryan Kohberger caught on camera, this is a done deal. An absolute done deal. And I could no longer support that Bryan Kohberger didn't do this crime. And what I would then be going down the route of is who did this crime with Bryan Kohberger. That's 100% what I would then be thinking. Okay, Bryan Kohberger is involved in this situation because I'm not 100% ruling it out. I never have. I've never turned around and said I believe 100% that Bryan Kohberger is innocent of this crime. In fact, I've consistently said that I understand that Bryan Kohberger could have done it. I just haven't seen enough evidence to support guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, which I still haven't. And it's still things like this being said where he's literally saying there's footage everywhere, there's surveillance everywhere, there's cameras everywhere. You're literally going to see who goes in and who comes out. Are we? If that's the case, then fuck.
Yeah, this case is solid. It's super solid, and we look forward to it. They're just trying to delay it, but it's time to pay the piper. We're all going to see what the state has, and I'm very confident in what they have.
How is your family holding up and handling all of this? I mean, last week we heard the 911.
We know that obviously they're not doing well. The family are not.
Your family tell them to stay away from the TV, stay away from your child has been through. I just think of all the officers and the FBI agents and all the hard work that they.
Just trying to get to it. There's another bit where he talks about like the alibi situation.
For you and your family is the thing you hope people focus on the most when that.
Going through their everyday life, trying to be educated, try to be like the best type of human being that you could possibly be, and even having all the way from stranger he's not even a part of our state. He's not even. He just didn't even belong here, and to have that person sneak into your home and kill you in your bed. If there wasn't ever a moment for people to rally together and say, it's time to take this to the full closure and have a message that.
See, this is where I differ in thoughts, because my thoughts and feelings around this situation is still, if you're in a situation where there has been a crime, then the best thing to do is stay off fucking social media, stay off the TV, and don't get involved in it, and allow the system to operate properly. And we have seen that with other people affected by this crime, but I don't agree with some of the things that Steve Goncalves has got involved in with respect of what he said previously, and I feel that could have at some point been quite damaging to this case and justice.
The darkest part, all the way till we finalize these people, and then maybe we can stop having these so often.
Have you been able to speak to any of the other families, Ethan's family, Zane?
You're struggling, you're having a hard day, that
He's confident right now that prosecutors have what they need to get a conviction here?
Yeah. They broke that down early on, and they basically outlined a couple different scenarios. And one of those was,
I think this
hopefully this person comes out and says that he was framed. Was ideal, because that basically just means there's so much evidence that he just can't combat it. We didn't think we'd get as lucky as no alibi. We thought he'd think it out, and he is a smart guy. I figured he'd have some better way to explain what he was doing that night. I mean, I could think of a lot of better ways he could have done it. Really tricky stuff, but he didn't. And luckily, the case is going to be, it's going to be handled.
Why would you say that? Like I say, that's pretty much it. But Steve Gonzalez literally says there, I could have thought of loads of alibi. I could have thought of alibis, really tricky stuff. Nice one. I don't even understand why you would say that. Why would you basically say I'm a better criminal? Maybe Bryan Kohberger was just telling the truth. What does he want? What is the point of this? I don't understand. Because Bryan Kohberger could have done this crime. He could have been innocent of this crime. At this stage, he's not been proven beyond a reasonable doubt to be guilty of this crime. So what if Bryan Kohberger's alibi, what he's saying is just his fucking alibi? What, he's going to get crucified because he didn't make something up that satisfied people who are indicating that they would have lied better? Make that make sense. But the point being in all of this is that, the selfie and things that are still being said are still, people are listening to this. Like this video here, like how many views has this had? 26,000. So not many views on a channel with 11.1 million subscribers, but people are seeing this and they're obviously following this family. And the statement that he makes around the selfie and the, it was a trophy picture almost, and again, that's spoken from someone who believes Bryan Kohberger is guilty. And then the flip side of it, where he turns around and says that there's evidence, you're going to see who comes out of that property when they come out on that. I need to see that. I need to see it. Is that what he meant? That's exactly what he said. There's cameras everywhere. You're going to see who come out of there and who went in there when that happened. Let me know down below what you think, and I'll catch you all tomorrow live.